Well, you can tell this territory is going to fold up pretty soon. I'm John Recton with the retro review of NWA CWF Battle of the Belts 2 from February 14th, 1986. And what a great gift for the Mr. or Mrs. in your life that loves professional wrestling. Not that New York hogwash, but Jim Crockett Promotions mixed with Eddie Graham style wrestling. Even though, unfortunately, this event would take place just a year after the untimely passing of Eddie Graham, one of the greatest minds in professional wrestling. But a great gift like Ric Flair versus Barry Windham for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship in 1986. Yes, inject that directly into my veins. And you get some matches where you question why the hell the referee was even there, because it was just a bunch of dodgy finishes. And there were some other wrestlers who would go on to do bigger and better things. And also Kendall Windham, who kind of would torpedo his own career a few years after this. And if you know, you know. But Kendall was a pretty good athlete. He just was pushed way too soon, and it didn't end up working out. And also, yeah, championship wrestling from Florida was really starting to go downhill. It was eroding fast. It was eroding before Eddie Graham's untimely passing. But with Battle of the Belts 1, that was actually a nice time capsule, even with some of the matches that were kind of eh. This had a good main event and had a couple other good moments mixed in, but you could tell the bloom was off the rose by this point. I do want to thank 4 Wrestling Fans. That's 4, you know, the number 4, not like I Am Number 4. They wanted to make a franchise out of that movie, and that movie is absolute dog shit. But they're on YouTube as well as classic wrestling stuff, and they have these events as full and complete as possible for master tapes, whatever. It's great that we can see territorial wrestling at its peak. And on its downside, you know, world-class championship wrestling, NWA, Georgia championship wrestling, you know, Houston wrestling, Portland wrestling. There's some Portland wrestling stuff on YouTube. I'm going to have to dive into that shit. It's really, really great to see this territorial wrestling. I want to thank, you know, 4 Wrestling Fans and classic wrestling stuff and other channels for putting up stuff like this. Because this stuff may never make it to Peacock, or if it does, it's going to be a really long goddamn time. Anyway, they're at the Eddie Graham Sports Arena in Orlando, Florida. That cheesy 80s opening, but it was sports-based because it was still Eddie Graham-style wrestling, and they treated it like a sport. They did a good job with that. It's just Vince McMahon's national and international expansion was sucking up a lot of talent, and also Jim Crockett Promotions were taking a lot of talent from Florida because they were right north, and they were making more money, and Florida just wasn't doing all that well. Now, the crowd, it seemed like a decently full crowd. I mean, I'm not too sure on the capacity of that venue. I would imagine 8,000 people, you know, for capacity, so it's probably about 6,000. But you couldn't really tell beyond the first 8 rows or so. But anyway, Gordon Solie and Mike Graham on commentary like they were for Battle of the Belts 1, which I did retro review, and that was a lot of fun. So we have Tyree Pride versus Ron Slinker, who looked like he was trying to be a karate expert, but also worked in a gymnasium part-time. Nothing wrong with that. It was just a bit of a weird... I'm not familiar with these guys. NWA Bahamas Championship. What? Never heard of it. And it was about 3.5 minutes and crossbody from Pride 1, 2, 3. Then he's interviewed afterwards, and he's fired up and stuff like that. He speaks some English and speaks his native language. It was what it was. I mean, I'm not familiar with him, but it wasn't bad. It was just really, really quick, and I've never heard of the Bahamas Championship. Then we have Kendall Windham versus Prince Ayakea. Not the WCW one, but the actual son of Curtis Ayakea. King Curtis. Sullivan, my son! He would actually apparently wrestle for 15 years and then would retire, and he has a boating company doing tours. Good for him. Florida Heavyweight Championship. Kendall Windham had won the championship, I believe, back at Battle of the Belts 1, and Kendall was 18 at the time, and then I think was 19 at this point, if I recall correctly. It wasn't working with Kendall, and then Kendall and Blackjack Mulligan would, you know, do something really bad in 1990 that would land them in jail for a bit, and if you know, you know. Maybe don't do that stuff with money. What the hell's wrong with you guys? So, the crowd booed Kendall heavily after cheering him just a few months prior. Prince attacked early, and there was a lot of groundwork. So much groundwork. Too much fucking groundwork. Way too much fucking groundwork. This is the stuff that people can point to when they say, oh yeah, the wrestler spent a lot of time on the mat doing headlocks and all that stuff, and, you know, working the arm and stuff like that. And working the body part and doing that psychology isn't the worst thing in the world, but this is the most egregious, hey, we're just going to pad these matches out by doing this stuff. And no, you don't need to do a million flips and dives and twisty-doo-dahs and all that, and flippy-doo-dah shit and all that. No, 450 into a 720 con hero. No, you don't need to do that. You just need to make the match exciting, and I think the Florida crowd was really starting to get bored with this stuff, which is a shame because, you know, this match was well worked. Kendall was pushed way too soon. And he gets a running bulldog later, 1, 2, 3, to retain the championship. And Kendall got interviewed. Man, he really was trying. He was really trying, and it wasn't working. Danny Brown versus the White Ninja, who was dressed like a young lion from New Japan. There's a reason for that. NWA World Heavyweight Championship. It's young Keiji Muto, a.k.a. the Great Muta. Yes, the Great Muta wrestled in Florida. He was like about 18 months into his career. He was on excursion. This is well before he got the paint and everything and all that and became one of the big... Him and Jushin Thunder Liger are the two reasons I got into New Japan. And when a buddy of mine, got tapes and everything, buddy that I used to have in the neighborhood, we would watch that stuff and it would just be really, really amazing just to see the amount of just great hot Japanese crowds and everything. And Muta excited me. I was grateful to see him for the brief time that he was in WCW in 89 and in early 90. Because he could excite anybody. I mean, it was great when he did that whole thing at Halloween Havoc, the fire start, and he used his mist to spray that out. Like, I'll put it out. Well, I mean, I'm sure he didn't say it like that, but you get the point. He's like, oh, nobody can put this out here. Boom. I'll just do that. So, yeah, the White Ninja. I don't know why he was called the White Ninja. Because he wasn't even dressed like a goddamn ninja. And also he wasn't white. Really weird. So yeah, the groundwork, a lot of boring chants. Boy, they hated this. The crowd hated this. They absolutely hated this. Over the top rope by Muto. I'm just going to call him Muta. And he, got DQ'd, and the crowd booed that. The crowd was starting to really get frustrated. I mentioned that. Lex Luger with Hiro Matsuda versus Jesse Barr. NWA Florida Southern Heavyweight Championship. Adding more championships doesn't solve everything. Jeez. What does that sound like? It sounds like WWE right now. Jesse had beaten Lex for the title in the last number of months. And so this is the rematch. Luger actually wrestled. He actually did some wrestling. Hiro Matsuda trained him, by the way, in case you didn't know. Jesse targets the leg. More rest holds. Good Lord. So many rest holds. Restamania, if you will. It's like Pastamania, except Restamania was actually over. And Luger got booed a whole lot. So, I mean, Lex Booger, if you will. I would have said Lex Booger, but, that would have been just way, way too immature for my channel. Haha. And horrible Boston Crab by Luger. I think The Rock studied how to do the sharpshooter from watching how Luger did the Boston Crab. Seriously, it was that bad. Jesse came back, tried some stuff, got a near fall, but Luger got his foot on the rope. And then a lariat from Lex, and Jesse got his foot on the rope, but Lex knocked it off before the ref saw it. 1, 2, 3. So he retained. And then Luger could not talk. He said a technicality, because apparently he was thinking about having kale in his diet even back in 1986, assuming that was an actual thing. Hiro Matsuda could not really cut great promos because English was his second language, but he said he will be a world champion. I mean, to be fair, he was right. Colt sure loved Lex. Good God, he loved Lex. It's like he wanted to polish his total package right there. Wahoo McDaniel versus Bruiser Brody. That was spelled with an I-E instead of a Y, and Gary Hart was in Bruiser Brody's corner, and, well... No selling, they brawl, both bleed. Well, Wahoo bleeds and gets a double count at about 5 minutes. The crowd boos and then they start brawling again, and the crowd cheers. This is a weird crowd. Ellering then gets interviewed, typical stuff, firing up about the Road Warriors and all that stuff. And they have Blackjack Mulligan in their corner, who was well past his prime by this point. He was only 44 and then would get into some kind of scheme that would land him and Kendall in jail. Stupidity. Anyway. Kevin Sullivan, Maha Singh, Purple Haze, no, not the Jimi Hendrix song, with Luna. And they took on Road Warriors and Blackjack Mulligan with Ellering. There was a giant snake at ringside. No, I'm not even referring to anybody like Kevin Sullivan or an actual human being that was snake-like. There was an actual giant snake, and at one point, one of the wrestlers accidentally hit it. And it was a boa. You don't want to do that. You really don't want to anger a boa constrictor or scare it because, they're kind of known for squeezing people. And I can imagine that the two hooded guys that were in weird masks and everything were all terrified holding a giant snake. The crowd in Florida was probably like, that snake's not all that big. By the way, Singh was Bob Roop and Mark Lewin was Purple Haze. Purple Haze, wait. So then the Warriors took the golden spike from Sullivan. That was the crux of this feud. That was all this was. The jump start, it was wild. Mulligan was wiped out. Everybody, a couple people bleed. Like Mulligan bleeds and other people bleed. And Steps get in the ring. It's a double count out because the referee, they just batter the referee around and everything and then they leave. And the crowd's sort of cheering. But the crowd doesn't know what the hell's going on. Why'd they bother having the ref? Just send him out there, have him brawl for 6 minutes and then go to the back. Because really, the referee wasn't needed. And then noted nut job and crackpot and Reuter, superstar Billy Graham, says he will team with Wahoo McDaniel against Kevin Sullivan, and I believe the Purple Haze, or maybe he said, I don't know. I tuned out of what Billy Graham said because by this point, he was well past his physical prime, and I'm kind of glad that he suffered a whole lot of injuries that he suffered from just, doing a whole bunch of steroids, more steroids than any human being should ever goddamn do. He was great on promos. That was it. So we get a Ric Flair interview. Buddy Colt strokes his ego a lot, says he's the greatest world champion he's seen. And Ric Flair truly is one of the greatest world champions of all time. There's not enough footage of Luthez and O'Connor and Buddy Rogers and stuff like that. I'm just saying there's not a lot. There's no footage of people that Luthez wrestled to like beat for the championship. You don't see enough Terry Funk, Dory Funk Jr. You don't get to see enough Kanitsky. You don't get to see enough footage of that. You get to see the occasional stuff, but you really have to seek out that because a lot of times, there just wasn't tape or there just wasn't a way to record this stuff on, film. And it's a shame. But Ric Flair, one of the greatest world champions of all time, especially in the, 80s into the 90s. I'd say so. Do you agree? Let me know in the comments. So, Barry Windham versus Ric Flair NWA title match. This was the reason to watch the goddamn show. These two always work well together. Ric Flair came out to Easy Lover by Phil Collins. I don't know why that made me laugh. She's an easy lover. She'll wear your heart out, you won't need it. Wait, I think that's how the lyrics go. Anyway, the pace was good. Flair got the best out of anybody that he worked with. There was a weird flummox in the ropes where Rick kind of caught his head. Ouch, that looked a little painful. Looked like it rocked him, so they had to slow it down a bit. Did some good wrestles. Barry was bleeding, and then, of course, Rick bled. Gee, Ric Flair bleeding in a match. I'm shocked. Shocked, I say. Absolutely shocked. I don't know what that was on about. So, it was a good pace, though. 41 minutes, but it flew by. Great working out with the wrestles. They made that stuff exciting because these two are premier workers. Ric Flair had been in the business a lot longer, but Barry's come along. Barry was one of the most naturally gifted athletes in wrestling. And, Dusty said that, and Dusty worked with Barry, and he knew that. And, you got figure four stuff, pile driver by Rick. We got a post spot. Flair, got a figure four on, and then it picked up at the end. They do that tumble outside where Rick tried to do that with Lex Luger at Great American Bash 88, which didn't work all that much, work all that well. And they did a double count out thing where they kept trying to get back in the ring, but the other got the other outside, and it was a double count out, but they kept battling. So Barry looked like he belonged with Ric Flair. Ric Flair retained the championship. It was good stuff overall. Just a shame the event itself wasn't all that good. I do have other events that I will be diving into occasionally. Some of these retro reviews. The pace I'm going, I will probably be done by, early May. But anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rethlin. I'll see you soon.